Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cynthia. I'm today's MC, a rising sophomore at HKUST Business School. Thank you so much for joining today, joining our inaugural alumni lunch seminar featuring family business. We are very honored to have invited Professor Roger King and Professor Winnie Peng from HKUST Tanoto Center for Asian Family Business and Entrepreneurship Studies to share with us today. The Tanoto Center for Asian Family Business and Entrepreneurship Studies is a leading research center in Asian family business and entrepreneurship studies, with focus on ethnic Chinese family business as a dynamic and influential network contributing to the world's economy. Without further ado, may I invite Professor Roger King, founding director of the Tanoto Center for Asian Family Business and Entrepreneurial Studies, founding director of the Thompson Center for Business Case Studies, and adjunct professor of finance at HKUST Business School to tell us more about the center and its research. Professor King, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Is this the way? Okay, yeah, okay. We're both, Winnie and I are very, very honored to be invited today. And some of you were our students, so some of the things that we're presenting may be a little bit of repeat or updated itself. So hopefully be very, very useful to all of you itself. So before I begin, I just want to show you one thing. Both Winnie and I are alumni of HKUST. I'm the oldest alumni, and I don't think my record will be beaten for many, many years to come, okay? So you can see Winnie is a class behind me, right? So I received my PhD degree 2006. That's, wow, 12 years ago. Can't believe it. And it was a very, very happy day because I had all my 8 grandchildren sitting in the audience itself. Okay, so yeah. And so you can figure out my age very, very quickly. Nowadays, most places I go to, I'm the oldest guy in the room, okay? So, and I always tell people, you know, Chinese love to dye their hair black, right? I dye my hair gray to gain respectability. So this is one of the things. And Winnie, of course, you know, we were classmates, but she was actually one grade below. And I think Winnie was probably the youngest PhD at the time. I don't know if your record will be broken soon or not, okay? So Winnie also, she can introduce herself, but she actually joined the PhD program without a master's degree and completed in 5 years, right? 4 years, okay, so we all complete. The normal PhD program is 4 years. By the way, my PhD, it took me 40 years to get my PhD. I started my PhD long, long time ago. Then I gave up. I started my own businesses. I entered different businesses. And later on, I guess I had too much time on my hand, and I decided to come back and finish my PhD. I started actually in computer research and working for a company in the United States called Bell Labs for many, many years. And I was going through my PhD program at that time, but, you know, I had a calling to do my own business, and so I started many, many businesses and sold many, many businesses. So I'm what they call a serial entrepreneur, okay? There are 2 happy days in a serial entrepreneur's life. Is like a boat owner. You're very, very happy when you start the business. You're also very happy when you sell the business, okay? So anybody own a boat, you know what I mean. You know, it's happy days when you buy the boat, and you're very, very happy when you sell the boat itself. So, you know. So what we like to do today is, you all have the little brochures in front of you. So I'd like to just say a few words about the Tanoto Center for Asian Family Business and Entrepreneurship Studies, okay? Incidentally, the word entrepreneurship here, what we really are focused on is entrepreneurship within the family, within family businesses. Very often, you know, family businesses tend to not change their business model very, very often. And it's also, you know, it's interesting to see some families are now encouraging next generation to start their own businesses or at least introduce the ideas of how they can meet the challenges of what I call technology disruptors, such as artificial intelligence, robotics, and so forth. Okay. Incidentally, although it's not today's presentation, what's very, very interesting is we also did some study on birth order. Okay, how many people in this room are the firstborn in their generation? Oh, quite a few. But you know what we discovered is that most successful entrepreneurs are not firstborn. Firstborn are parents spend a lot of time with them. They're very meticulous and they do well scholastically. They tend to follow orders. But one of the shortcomings of firstborn is that they are risk averse. Think about it, okay, for those, they don't want to take risk. And in today's business environment, if you're not willing to take risk, how can you survive? This is one of the things, okay? So anyway, for our research, the Tanoto Center itself, we should also thank Mr. Tanoto family. They're very, very nice to us. They contributed money, and of course, we gave them naming rights itself, okay? So we have three major objectives. One is research. This is, again, both Winnie and I, our research tend to be much more on a practical basis. You know, a lot of academic research, they tend to, write articles for other academics. But for this subject, we really want, our research to be read by people that are interested in family business practitioners. So many of our articles are actually published in mass journals first, such as Hong Kong Economic Journal, Forbes magazine, sometimes even a newspaper, and we get interviews very, very often itself. However, we do put emphasis later on, and some of our studies actually we do submit to academic journal itself. So, although we won't talk very much about it, both Winnie and I are also responsible for the Case Center, the HKUST Business School Case Center itself, okay? And so this is one of the things. Second is education. Education, of course, we're part of a university. Some of you already attended our class. So we do teach the Kellogg program, the Chinese MBA program, as well as the MBA program. And also we have executive programs, certificate programs itself, primarily designed for family members. And we do encourage those of you in family businesses sometimes to attend these things. And we actually love it when there are multiple generations attend the same event. I'll tell you why we like that idea. In a Chinese family, very, very often the next generation cannot talk to the upper generation, okay, in a very, very straightforward way, especially if you talk about succession planning. How can you go to your parents and say, by the way, when you die, who's going to take over? Should we start planning these things? I mean, to a Chinese, what, you wish me to die? So, but when they attend this kind of program itself, it becomes open discussions. But it's also very, very interesting for members of one family to talk to members of another family and compare notes. This is very, very interesting itself. We also do a lot of teaching through affiliation with a lot of private banks, their asset management, so we do that. We also, in fact, Winnie and I are now in the process of putting together a program. Maybe some of you like to think about this. This very interesting program is we're going to join forces with Tel Aviv University. And so basically, it's a family business program whereby actually people from Tel Aviv, as well as people from Greater China, will actually attend classes. Some of them will be physically in Tel Aviv, and some will be here in Hong Kong itself. So the idea is networking and understanding each other's culture, but more importantly, it also offers business opportunity, both sides. Because for the Israelis, they would love to see if they can do business in this part of the world, and for people here, Israel is a very, very attractive place, especially high-tech related industry. If you haven't read the book yet, I highly recommend you read it. It's called Startup Nation. It's about Israel and how successful they are. You know, Tel Aviv today is considered the second Silicon Valley, okay? And I guess the Greater Bay Area in the future will be the third, okay? And maybe the best, okay? Let's hope so. So, and the third thing about our center is specifically we have events. We hold various events. Now we have all your names, so we'll send invitations to those that are interested. And these events to us is very, very important because it also gives an opportunity for academics to meet practitioners. Very often, they don't have a chance to meet each other, right? How can you write meaningful articles if you don't meet the other side? And also practitioners, they often don't know what academics can actually do for them as well. So we have these events, and it's quite interesting. One of the very popular events is, for those of you who are in family business, we tend to invite the next generation, those that are going to, traditionally we invite someone from a family, he or she decided not to join the family business itself onto the panel. Sometimes we'd like to invite the female. You know, again, this part of the world, female's role is still not quite on par with male, and they can talk and share about you know, their experience in a family itself. Okay, so this is again a very, very open type of thing, and hopefully all of you, for those of you who are interested, we're more than happy to extend an invitation to all of you. Okay. Okay. I know some of you in this room are from family businesses, okay? You know, family business is not that easy to define, if you think about it. And I think some of you attended our class. I always say family business is a bit like pornography. Why is that? Pornography is very difficult to define, but when you see it, you know it, right? So family business is a bit like that. So here are some, family members control the board or a significant shareholding. Can you think of a family that way? Actually, Li Ka-shing's family, they don't have 51% actually, but they control the board, right? And recently we know when Mr. Li Ka-shing stepped down at the age of 90. So everyone thinks the son, Victor, is going to take over everything, right? Guess what? He or someone in the family or the board reappointed him as a senior advisor. What does that mean? That means he's still going to continue to make all the decisions. You know, this is one of the things itself. So family member controlling key management positions, okay? Now there's a trend, a lot of family businesses, they have professional managers managing these businesses. So they move from manager and ownership to an ownership position. But for Chinese, that's not so easy to do, to give up, you know, management itself. So this is one of the challenges itself, okay? And we talk about family businesses, we tend to talk about multiple generations itself. And today's focus will be on multi-generation. Common myths about family businesses. For those of you who are not that intimately involved with family businesses, the notion that family business is always very, very small, okay? Some are, but many of them, actually some of the biggest companies in the world are actually family businesses. For example, in the United States, which I'm a little bit more familiar with, well, one of them, Ford Motor Company, right? That's family. Cargill, which is agriculture. I don't know anybody in this room is involved. Again, you know, very, very large. These are very, very large family businesses, okay? Limited or no growth opportunity or limited capital, nepotism. In other words, if you're one of our classes, we actually invite people, non-family members, that are senior position in a family business to talk about their role specifically and what are the challenges they face, okay? And it's actually quite interesting. One of our guest speaker, he's actually a Westerner, Caucasian, and he works for a very, very large Chinese-owned family. So he always talks about his role, what he will do and not do. And one of the things he suggests that one should not do is, if the family is having disputes, stay out of it. Stay out of it, okay? You're always going to be a loser if you take sides. So you always, okay, so this is one of the things. Here, again, by the way, we can make these PowerPoints available to anyone that's interested, okay? These, again, give you some family business is pervasive and significant. Look at this, okay? These are, just take Germany, 2/3 of the GDP and 75% of the workforce is family, okay? Family businesses. Chile, Sweden, the Wallenberg family, right? India, China, Hong Kong. 2/3 of the listed company are basically somehow family related, okay? So again, the perception that family business is very small, it's incorrect. There are some very small, but on the other hand, not necessarily, right? Family businesses are much more profitable, okay? How many in this room are from family businesses? I know this table, quite a few of you, right? Also that table, yeah. A very good friend of mine, a very large family business itself. A while back, I visited him in his office, and he has a sitting room next to his office, his main office, so we all go in. And guess what? After the talk is over, you know, he turns the light off and turns the air conditioner off. It's his own money, right? And if you look at family businesses, the revenue per head count is usually higher than non-family businesses. The other interesting thing about family businesses, I'll talk a little bit about that also, it's actually a better place to work. Here are some of the statistics. You know, how many people, I know there are some bankers here, right? You know, a bank, if they get into trouble a little bit, they don't care. They can fire 100, 200 people immediately, right? Family businesses tend not to overhire in the first place, and they don't fire people as well. So it tends to be a much better place to work, okay? Family businesses are longer lasting. Incidentally, so-called widely held family, listed company itself, an average tenure, number of years that the CEO serves, it's probably six, 7 years. Families stay with the business for a long time. This is one of the things. So if you're the CEO, non-family, just a widely held listed company itself, what are you going to do? You're going to maximize profit during your tenureship, because your compensation is all geared to that. This is why you fire people, this and that, so because you get the extra bonus. But is that good for long term? And family business is always working on long-term concept itself. So for those of you not familiar with families, this is one of the key. So it's longer lasting, but family businesses are very complex. Okay, for those of you who are not familiar with this model here, it was actually developed by John Davies of Harvard Business School itself. You look at, this is what we call the 3-circle model. When family business start, these 3 circles are actually concentric. They're all together. And gradually it shifts apart. And if you look at the thing, let's take an example. Let's assume you're in the number 4 box, okay? And let's take, Charles here, number 7, okay? You see, number 4 is your family member. You have ownership, but you're not involved in the business itself. Number 7, you're everything. Family member, your ownership, and you're managing the business. Well, those that are managing the business, they prefer to keep the profit back into the business so they can grow the business. But those in number 4, what do they want to do? They want dividend. Every year they like to have maximum dividend coming out because that's the only source. Okay, so you can see there's some differences. But one of the greatest differences, if you're in number 7, your friend calls you up, oh, I'm in town. You say, well, let me take you out for dinner. Guess what? He charges it to the family business itself, right? If you're in number 4, you can't charge your friend's thing. So again, you always have conflicts. And this is why you probably read in the newspaper, many of the Hong Kong well-known families, people like the Sun Hung Kai family business, the Great Eagle business, even Yongki, they always have fights, right? And part of the reason is that their interpretation is very, very different. A very good friend of ours wrote a book which is very, very interesting. It's called The Destructive Power of Family Wealth. Okay, think about it. Okay, it's actually, I recommend that book highly. It's an interesting book to read. Anyway, so family business is very, very complex, despite the fact it's actually good business in general. So here again, there's this old saying, the Chinese saying, wealth doesn't go beyond 3 generations, but it's actually not unique to the ethnic Chinese, okay? And the Westerners, people have a concept called shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve in 3 generations, but also for those of you who have friends from Netherlands, they call it clogs to clogs in 3 generations, okay? So this is, so I'll probably end here. I'd like to bring Winnie. What we'd like to do is just to give you some of our most recent research results. This is only one of many, many research. And what Winnie's going to do is talk about ethnic Chinese family business that survived more than 100 years. Okay? And I'll let her do, but for those of you, think about it. How many of you know ethnic Chinese families that survived more than 100 years? Not many, right? And so this is why it was very curious we did this study. So today we do this presentation. If we get invited, next time we'll do a different presentation. Another study we are very interested in is the differences between overseas Chinese and Jewish diaspora, similarities and differences from a business perspective, okay? So anyway, I end here. I give the floor to Winnie. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be part of our alumni family and be given this opportunity to share with you one of our research in family business. And this research title is called Breaking the Curse, How Chinese Family Business Survived Beyond 3 Generations. In fact, this research was done about 3 years ago. Since then, it's usually been included in the first session of our MBA and EMBA classes. Okay, so we think this will be a very good start for people to get a general understanding of Asian, especially Chinese family business. So for today's lunch sharing, we still decided to use this research to share with you, and we hope that this will be a continuous event in the future. We can also be able to share with you more of our more recent research, especially the research that Roger mentioned, and also like family office. If people are in the financial industry, maybe you're very interested in this subject, and also our comparative studies between Chinese family business and other ethnic groups, for example, Jewish, Indians, and Japanese family business. So let's just start with this one first. Okay, let me just show you several diagrams of the top 10 countries with century-old family businesses. So this diagram just gives you a general understanding of China's position and what other countries are doing. So you can see that from this diagram, which country is ranked number 1? It's Japan, right? So in Japan, over 25,000 companies are over 100 years old. Okay, that's number 1. Okay, number 2, ranked number 2 is USA, right? And number 3, Germany. And you see through this top 10, China is not listed, okay? But China has its largest population. Why it's not in the top 10? Okay, one simple reason is, after 1949, right, it's become and all the private companies become state-owned. So there's not long enough family business in mainland China. So what about the overseas Chinese? The population of overseas Chinese is over 40 million. Okay, it's equal to some of the small European countries, but still we couldn't find so many overseas Chinese family business that survive beyond 3 generations. Okay, this one is another table, number of century-year-old family businesses by country, the top 50 countries. Okay, just now it's the top 10 countries, right? Now it's top 50 countries. What I want to draw your attention is those marked in yellow. Okay, those countries are Asian countries. Okay, Asian countries. So what kind of initial conclusion you can get from here is top 10 countries, mostly developed countries, right? Then Asian countries is ranked lower. Okay, those mostly the developing countries. Okay, so what kind of family business that can, easily survive over 3 generations? Maybe, okay, external environment is a big factor, okay? If they are in a stable environment with better economic development, stable policy, and better legal protection, maybe those companies can survive longer, right? This one, top 10, top 20 oldest family businesses in the world, not just the century-year-old, the oldest, okay? You can see that top 10, mostly Japanese family business. Ranked number 1 is a family business called Kongo Gumi. This is Japanese construction firm, okay? And it's built, the Japanese style temple, but, unfortunately, it's been liquidated I think in 2007 and bought by another company. But anyway, it's still the oldest family business in the world, okay? So the last column I want to draw your attention is the business. Okay, what kind of business do you think they are, the common businesses of those top 20 companies? What kind of business? You see, it's usually, yes, consumer-based, construction brewery, pub, restaurant, right? Winery, okay, those consumption-based industries. And in fact, another size I didn't show with you, the size. Size is a very important factor. Out of 25,000, century-year-old Japanese family business, over 95% of those family businesses are very, very small. Okay, very small. Small means, less than 10 employees. Okay, if you're small, it's more easily for you to get rid of out of the political radar. So the government will not give you any trouble, right? Because you're small. Okay, so size is a fact, and business, consumption-based, stable. Okay, doesn't require too much, capital. Those businesses, it's easy for the business to survive longer. Okay, so a few years back, Roger and I also did another research called the family longevity and the industry characteristics, the relationship with those two. We found that if the family business in the following 3 industries, 3 kind of industries, it's difficult for them to survive. Number 1 is cyclical industries. Number 2, capital-intensive industries. Number 3, the industry itself, which requires high growth rate. It's very difficult for the family business to survive because those, for example, the high-tech industry, right? They need very high growth, so you need to continuously introduce new people and also fundings, right? Gradually you will lose your control, right? So for the high-tech industry, those mobile apps industry, whatever, it's very difficult for you to find family business, okay? So you see, the unique characteristics of Asian Chinese culture is, we believe is the cultural factors or reasons for Chinese family business that cannot survive longer. Okay, just list a few. Okay, the most important family values are Confucianism based. This is Chinese culture, right? And we have very strict hierarchical relationship. And family is more important than individual. And so we also value social connections most, right? And also face saving is essential. Okay, you have to save, your elder generation's face. You need to respect them. But respect them is very good virtue in a family, right? But in a business, if they did something wrong, you still, you respect them. You don't point it out, then it might be, difficult for the business to continue, right? So those are the cultural factors why, the Chinese family business are more vulnerable to, this kind of curse, whilst does not pass beyond certain generations. Okay, and those are the more direct reasons for the curse. The first one, the bag is packed diaspora, especially for the family businesses, Chinese family business in Southeast Asia. They always have the concept that, they one day they will return back to their hometown. If they have this kind of mentality, then their business model will be very, short-term based, right? They don't focus on long-term development of the branding issues and other things, right? So, based on low cost and low value added advantages, right? And lack of organizational structure, okay? There's unclear division of role and the responsibilities. For example, if you're the son of the boss and you carry a name card called you're the assistant to manager, but in fact, your responsibility could be much bigger than a real assistant, right? And relationship and trust-driven, it's very difficult to pass to the next generation. If you want to get the same relationship as your daddy, then you have to earn it yourself. You have to establish the relationship yourself. It's very difficult for the dad to pass those relationships to you, right? Lack trust of outsiders or non-family members. This thing I want to talk a little bit more. Okay, so lack of trust. Chinese usually, it's for the long history. It's always lack of trust of outsiders because the change of dynasty all because of the outsiders' intrusion, right? So naturally, they don't trust outsiders. But what's the direct reason for this is because if your business model is focused on low cost or low value add advantages, then you don't have that core competence to trust outsiders. If you hire somebody inside, then maybe for very short time, this outsider will learn the business secret of your whole business, right? Then once he leaves, then he will maybe add a little bit his own thing and start up another company, which will become your direct competitor. So if you don't have your core competence, how can you trust outside, right? Next one, equal or near equal inheritance among the male descendants. Okay, this is our Chinese tradition. Okay, if you have 100% share, you have 4 sons, then each son will get 25% shares. Okay, so this is Chinese way. Okay, but Japanese way is very different. Okay, Japanese way is called primogeniture. Usually all the shares will go to one son. Usually it's the eldest son. Okay, so this is actually the most important reason why Japanese have 25,000 companies that last that long, but Chinese didn't. This is the main reason. Okay, we have a very interesting comparison. Chinese family business, we regard it as big the banyan tree. Okay, cannot grow very tall, but have a lot of roots and leaves because after 2 or 3 generations, a lot of people get some shares, right? Well, the Japanese family business we call it bamboo trees. Okay, it's grow very tall, but hollow inside. Do you know why it's hollow inside? No, because Japanese is very tricky, okay? Because usually they only pass all the shares to one person, the eldest son. What if they don't have a son? What do they do? Yeah, the son-in-law. Another one? Any other options? They adopt a son. But, okay, condition is this son-in-law or adopted son need to change their last name to the family name. So maybe after several generations, this family's original blood no longer there. That's why we call it hollow inside. Okay, but that's the way how they, can pass on many, many generations. This is one tricky, issue. Okay, primogeniture inheritance system is very, very different from our Chinese inheritance system. Okay, and 2 years ago when I visited Japan, and I talked to a Japanese family business owner, and he told me that, well, I wish I don't have any son. I only have daughter. Do you know why? Because he can choose a better son-in-law. If he has a son, then he has no way to choose, only can choose the son, right, to inherit the business. Okay. Lack of wealth protection. This is very common for a lot of Chinese family business, right? Family wealth is linked or depends on the success of family business, and you don't really separate the two. If you don't separate the two, if the family business goes wrong, then you lose all your private, wealth. So family wealth or individual wealth should be separated from the business wealth, okay? Lack of delayed personal business succession planning. This is true everywhere, not just for Chinese family business, okay? In Western family business also, right? People just don't want to retire, okay? And multiple relationships, family. Also in the past, ancient Chinese family business, the Chinese family owner, they usually have a lot of wives. Then if one wife already very troublesome, right? We have many wives and even more troublesome. So it's then really enlarge the banyan tree concept, right? So this is also the reason why Chinese cannot survive that longer. I mean Chinese family business. Okay, so but still. Even Chinese family business are more vulnerable to this curse, and we try to find out whether some family business, Chinese family business, that can survive long. Okay, so that other business can learn from them. Okay, so over 2 years extensive search, we finally find like a handful, I'll call Chinese family business that survive over 100 years. Okay, and based on our selection criteria, I need to mention the number 4, the fourth selection criteria is annual turnover is $50 million, okay, above, okay, because we want to differentiate those medium to large size family business with, from those, small family business, because the small one and the medium, large one, they have different family dynamics as well as business dynamics. Not because we look down on those small ones, but, if better for other business to learn, then better we choose some larger size family business, right? So we found a handful, and finally 7 Chinese family business, they agree for us to interview them. Okay, so 7, what are the 7? Li and Feng Group. Li Keng-Key, right? Li Keng-Key. This is the Hong Kong family business. Wing On also. Yuan San, Singapore. Okay, Tai Changcheng, this is the Hong Kong family business. IMC, Singapore. And Royal Selangor, this is Malaysia family business. Okay, 7. Okay, 7 of them become our final data sample. And out of the 7 companies, we learned at least the most important 3 common success factors that we think that are very helpful for other companies to learn from. Okay, the first success factor is we call it the sustainable business model. In order to be sustainable, your business model need to be, you have to reduce risk, right? So what kind of risk you can reduce? You have to diversify into different businesses or different product line. And also you have to diversify your location, okay? In order to diversify, you have to be, we call, intergenerational entrepreneurship. You have to always be more innovative, right? So in order to create new things, be creative. So Lee Kum Kee, previously it's very well known for its soy sauce product, right? But in the fourth generation, the youngest son, he entered into the Chinese herbal medical medicine, market. And this market nowadays, this total sales turnover is larger than their soy sauce business. Okay, so they don't really just stick in the old trees. Okay, they keep continuing their innovative activities, right? So for those, in these 7 companies, they all innovate into different product line, different businesses. And they all globalize the business, so they diversify their business location, right? This is success factor 1. Success factor 2, balancing Chinese and Western values. So you have to remember you are Chinese, okay? No matter where you go, you cannot forget your real root. When you're doing business in China, you're still in China, in Asia, you have to respect some Chinese tradition and Chinese culture. For example, there's Yuan-sen, very interesting example. The Yuan-sen is headed by the 5th generation. Rich Yi is the oldest one, son, and he's in his 30s nowadays. And before he joined the business, okay, he was working for a private equity firm in the United States. So usually, a private equity guy usually talk a lot. They don't, they like to challenge people, right? But when the first day when he joined the family business, he asked his uncle, "What should I do?" Then his uncle told him, "You just shut up." Okay, so he really shut up for over half a year, okay, in the boardroom. He didn't say anything, okay? Not like those private equity guys always point out, "Oh, you're wrong, okay?" He just sit there silently. But doesn't mean he didn't do anything. He still observed, what kind of issues, what kind of personalities those people have, right? And gradually, people turn to him to ask, "What do you think?" And he gradually talk about the issues about the business. And he now gains the respect of all his employers. So he's doing very well. So you see, he's quite Western. He received very good Western training, education, but he still respects the Chinese tradition very well, right? So this is success factor. You have to balance between Chinese and Western culture, okay? Success factor number 3, this we believe is the most important factor why those Chinese family business can survive long. Basically, they did one thing, is they prove the ownership. They reconcentrate the ownership when they reach the 3rd generation or 4th generation, meaning one of the brothers bought in all the shares from other brothers and siblings. So they transferred the inheritance model from the Chinese way to the Japanese way. So the pruning of ownership. Okay, so now the ownership now is concentrated in 1 or 2 people's hands. This is better than a lot of people have the shares. Okay, but people may ask, in a Western society, in the United States, in Europe, a lot of business actually they have many shareholders. Now what's the difference? Why in Chinese way they cannot do that, right? I think it's really attribute to the governance system. If you have strong governance power, it's okay for you to have many shareholders, right? But your governance is so weak then better concentrate in only 1 or 2 people's hands, okay? So this is just a very brief introduction about our study. Actually, I skipped a lot of point because it's not enough time, okay? The study have greater significance and implications in mainland China nowadays. One of the survey done by Shanghai Jiaoda, they said, 80% of the next generation, they do not want to inherit the business. Okay, so if they don't want to inherit the business, and if the first generation owner, they don't trust outsiders, what can they do? This may leave some opportunity for the private equity guys, right, to come inside. Okay, another question, last question I want to ask you is, just now we talked about wealth does not pass beyond 3 generations, but in fact we talk about the business, okay, the Chinese business. It's nothing to do with wealth. Okay, another powerful ethnic group, Jewish, okay, Jewish people, okay. In fact, the century-year-old family business, the number of those century-year-old family businesses is even fewer than Chinese family business. But it doesn't really affect them to become the most powerful ethnic group in the world, especially in the United States. They control the politics, they control the economy of the United States, okay? But they don't have too many century-year-old family business. What they care about is not really the sustainability of the business, but the wealth, okay? If the wealth can be passed on to the future generation, that's very important to them, okay? So if the business continues good, but if the business already in the sunset industry, why not? Why not just change their mindset, okay? Sell the business out at a good time and change to other business. Okay, most important thing for the Jewish family is the sustainability or preservation of wealth, but not business. So this is something that maybe Chinese family business can learn from. It's good, it's always good to sustain your business. But if you cannot sustain, you need to be more flexible, okay, like a Jewish family business. Okay, so that's the end of my sharing. If you have any questions, you can ask both Roger and Winnie. Well, me, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor King and Professor Wen, for your insightful sharing. So now we're proceeding to the Q&A session. So feel free to raise your hands if you have any questions for both of the professors.
Yes.
I'm actually interested about the numbers, about the circle. So there is a number 7, which is the family. I'm actually referring to the Professor Roger King's slide. So number 7 is actually the one who is actually owns the share and also having an work in the business. So when we are actually trying to win a business or have a partnership or cooperation with the company, so which actually people that we have to target it to? Like, for example, we have so many people that we know is number 4. Then is it going to be not so useful to approach them? Better to approach number 7? That's my question.
Well, it's a difficult thing to respond because the number 7, the question is how many shares percentage-wise they own. So you obviously want to approach the people that have the greatest influence on the future path of the business itself. So even though they may not be in the operational side, but they may have greater ownership. So if you're thinking of that sense, you probably want to approach someone in the 4th category as well.
No, I think, it's really depend on your purpose. What do you want to do? Why do you want to approach them? If you for business, right, so they may have less value than the number 7 group, right? If for the family issue, I think both groups you have to really pay attention because they are families. So it's really come back to you, business first or family first? This is a question you have to ask your family members.
No, it's an important thing. If you ever want to joint venture with a family business itself, probably I would say, you have to approach both sides, those that are in the 4 and those in the 7, because obviously operational side is very, very important, okay? Of course, nowadays, because most family businesses reach a point where they have very, very few own and manage the business themselves. They have professional managers, more and more so. So this is one of the issues itself. So again, under those circumstances, obviously you want to look for those that have the greatest influence on the decision-making process, whether selling or not selling. In fact, both Winnie and I, we spent a lot of time on she mentioned family office itself. We talk about what we call the glue that keeps the family together. Nowadays, a lot of families are kept together because of the family business itself. But when you reach a certain point, maybe you'll sell the family business. Then after you sell the business, what keeps the family together? Is it important to keep the family together? You see, again, I think if you ask most Chinese families, they say yes, keeping the family together is very, very important. But, how many successful ones actually keep together after the business is actually sold? Mm-hmm. So anyway, we talk about the family office. We think family office, we call it 3 Ps, wealth preservation, harmony preservation, and legacy preservation. We think it all can fit into the family office itself, because a lot of people think of family offices as just asset management, the wealth preservation. Actually, harmony preservation is very, very important. Keeping, having family events all the time, and legacy through philanthropy, very, very often it's very, very important itself. And when the family decides to give money on behalf of the great-grandfather or something like that, in the name of the great-grandfather, everybody tend to agree to that. So this is, again, one of the things we look at. Mm-hmm.
So just now when Roger mentioned about 3 Ps, right? So he didn't really mention about business. So business preservation, in fact, is one of the tools to preserve, the wealth, family harmony, and family legacy. But it's not really ranked in the top 3 of the preservation that the family should pursue at. So at a certain point, maybe business will be no longer there. So what can keep the family together? Maybe family office can be a tool. Again, yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Again, there's a question over there. Yeah.
I see Li and Feng actually is a listed company, but Li K is not, right? Do you have a study about if if a family business listed or non-listed, which is performing better?
Well, okay, it's a very, very interesting question, okay? We both go to China quite a bit, and one time I was in Zhejiang province, and I was visiting a company, and so it's a listed company. I said, oh, by the way, how many people in your family work in this business? He said, oh, my brother's son works here, my daughter works here. Oh, you're a family business. He said, no, we're not a family business. Because the perception is that family business is small. So a lot of people, we haven't done this study, but intuitively, I think a lot of Chinese family businesses that seek listing actually is for reputational issues. I'm now the chairman of a listed company. You see, so coming back to your issue is that, if you're in a capital-intensive industry, you have a choice of borrowing money from banks or external source or raising capital through listing. Borrowing, I tell you, how many bankers are here? Banks are very, very friendly when you don't really need money. They'll lend you money. But if you ever get into trouble, and I've experienced that, they are not very, very friendly. If you are in trouble, they want their money back immediately. So this is one of the things. So you have to make the choice whether or not you want to go for listing, which dilutes your shareholding itself, or borrow money. So this is, again, one of the key issues itself. Winnie mentioned the capital-intensive industry. This is why capital-intensive industries tend not to last a long time because of this issue. either through dilution or, you know, if it's a cyclical industry and a down cycle, the banks, I tell you, are not very, very friendly, okay?
Let me just supplement to answer your question directly. Some of the researchers in the United States, they did find that family business, non-listed family business, actually they perform better than the listed ones. But I think it's really case by case. In China, most of the key controlling industry is still controlled by the state-owned enterprises. So in mainland China, I don't think those industries, family business, non-listed family business can perform better than listed businesses, especially those state-owned enterprises. But I think things are changing. It's really depend on the different, environment, different countries' own situation. I think, yes. Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
Again, the PowerPoints we have, we're more than happy to share it with you. You can ask the organizers themselves. And anyone like to talk to us separately, we're very, very happy to talk to them. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, professors, for your enlightening sharing. Now, to show our gratitude and appreciation, we would like to present a souvenir to Professor King and Professor Peng on behalf of the HKUST Business School.
Thank you.
Now, can we have everyone from today's sharing to have a big...
係啦，OK，好，好。OK，2, 3, yeah。OK，thank you。